Well, hello there. This is Shane from Shane's Reviews, and I hope that you are having a great day today. What are we going to be talking about? Well, it's going to be Ambush, wrote by Dean M. Cole. Now, in a previous video, I mentioned that I had read Sector 64 First Contact, which was a prequel to Ambush. And I've got to say, the prequel and this one, they start out a lot alike. So if you kind of read them back to back, you'll see a lot of similarities in the way that things happen. Same kind of a setup with a storm, same kind of this, that, and the other. Things are expounded on in this one a lot differently. Let's see, the narrations was done by R.C. Bray. Very enjoyable. I like the styling overall quite a bit. And it's the same thing with the Dean M. Cole's novels so far. There's a thing that I've noticed in between this series and then Multitude and Solitude. So I've noticed that there are some similarities in the way that he'll write a woman character in his books. I'm not going to tear it apart though, because in this situation, this works really well. And in the first series of his that I read, that person was kind of a little bit of flim-flam back and forth, but she was a very enjoyable character. And as I mentioned, he was able to take that character, even though she's likable, and make me not like her in the way that she was refusing to answer questions and this sort of a thing. So that was a unique situation in that. In this first book, we kind of have the same kind of a situation where people are disappearing, but there's a reason beyond just this white light that makes everybody disappear. But that explanation is kind of the same. It's a technology that's taking a specific DNA pattern and putting it into a place where it just can't exist. So that's what's happening. I mean, if you've read his other books, you'll kind of figure out that's what's going beforehand. So it's not that big of a spoiler. The female character in this, at one point, I really thought I was going to start to dislike her. I was like, no, don't you dare do this with this character. The reason why is, so in the beginning, we have Jake, which is taking a colleague slash trainee out so that he can get through this particular test. He's been having problems passing it, but he's taking him out at night. He's helping his friend get the hours he needs to be able to nail this test. And this is when everything is go a little bit awry. So Jake and his buddy, they end up separated, and Jake ends up getting drilled and is being followed by people. And we see him and his interactions with his girlfriend, Sandra, go particular ways. We see this, we're both captains, we're both, air people, we both fly, we both have our own confidence levels about us. And then at this particular point in the book, whenever she's kind of bamboozled by these two bad characters, bad actors, her incomplete demeanor and attitude changes and goes to one of being submissive and, oh, I love you, or, it was just like this really off-putting scene. But again, to the credit of Dean M. Cole, the way that he wrote that scene, it was very uncomfortable to read, but there was a payout at the end of it. I like that he didn't take the tract of the female character just immediately going, oh, woe is me, give into the situation. And we've noticed that at the beginning that there was particular words about him wanting to have child, her saying, no, this is mine, and you're really going to have to do something if you want to have that. You're not just going to be able to put a baby in me. These sorts of things. So there's playful banter between the two characters that make them more relatable and more realistic. And then we got to that point and I was like, oh no. But then there's this huge payout and I was like, well, go you. So you get that trophy. Yes, it is for staying true to the characters and to their situations. I really appreciate that, and I'm sure that a lot of other readers will as well. Now, moving on from that, because that was like a worry point. Yes, big worry point. I couldn't help but notice the similarities, though, whenever it comes to this story and the other story that I was reading. It comes full tilt, full circle, and it kind of makes me think of Angela and Vaughn from Multitude and Singularity. So I was kind of put back a little bit on that. So anyway, the story, he ends up going to meet up with his buddy, and his buddy starts to set him straight on this and this and this and this. And he gets sucked into this part of the government so very quickly. It's astounding to me. I guess that things were a little bit different back then. It was surely based off a good old boy mentality of not necessarily nepotism, but moreover, you happen to be there, you seem to be like you're on task. Come on, let's go. Just sign this piece of paper, right? But on the same token, the way that I read the book, it didn't feel like a 1940s book to me. There was biometric scanners for like eyes and this kind of a thing. And so that really kind of put me off on the whole storyline for the time period that it should have been, is my point. Now, I might have it wrapped in my head that it's 1947 and there really wasn't any clarification in between the prequel and this book. That might be my problem. Very much could be. Because I know that in this one, Sandra is flying a jet and she's chasing down other things. I mean, it sounded so based in it could be today, is my point. But I know that the prequel was 1940 something, and this one, I don't think it actually ever gave a date. So that might have been one of those things of if I had read the actual first book first and then read the prequel after the fact, I might have been cool. But the story is different from the other one because of the way that we get introduced to it. So it's not just that we did something, got the attention of alien race. Oh wait, it is. Yes, it wasn't a bad race that we got the attention of in this storyline, whereas in the other one it was. We made a singularity in the other book series and they came in to wipe out the planet and take our resources, etc. But in this one, we set off a nuke and that got the attention of apparently our cousins and brothers, which neat concept. We were a lost colony and we just simply lost our way once we landed. Something horrible happened and we had to start over from scratch, right? So anyway, that's kind of the feeling that we get as we get into the explanations of where these people came from, the reason why they're so much far advanced than we are, and how they're interested in us because of how, even though it's been 10,000, 15, 30,000 years, something like that, how much our history in that time period reflects their origins. So it's almost like we're a living museum piece to them and they're interested in bringing us in. And there's more alien life, of course, in this series where they're acting as stewards, I guess. But that's the impression we get, and that's not what I think we're going to find out whenever we get to second book, third book, whatever. It's just that's my feelings on it. I think that after reading this first one, I know there is a conflict that's going on in between a particular race that they brought into the fold, as they called it. That race has very big aggression issues. And so that's where we find ourselves at. We're starting to learn all this wonderment, this incredible things, these stuff that we can't really imagine that we would have. We're getting spaceships that can take us all throughout our galaxy. We've been given this stuff to reverse engineer. We can find out secrets that we never knew about the universe and ourselves. But everything's locked as well. So there's all these stipulations and this and this and this. The end goal apparently is to get us into that fold. And so it's going to be interesting, I think, to see how this book plays out. It is a very interesting read, even if it does borrow heavily from particular points in his other series. But I don't want that to dissuade you. Now, let's talk about some of the thoughts, the feelings that this book brings out. Like I mentioned, wonderment, because, again, it was a new series where people are finding out things about stuff and they're getting to explore things. And, of course, they find themselves wrapped up in this big, bad situation of what's going on, and they have to find a way to get through it, right? Okay, so, typical storyline for that kind of thing. But there was that wonderment, and there was a little bit of, oh, okay, but it was turned around on me whenever it got towards the end of the book. I have left out a lot of detail on purpose, and the reason why is because I want you to kind of experience that for yourself. But I also wanted to give you a heads up, because if you're the type of person that you can't deal with a storyline being almost a mirror in a way of another storyline that an author's already wrote, this is not going to be something for you. So there's that. I was elated when I read that section about Sandra and how she turned things around on that with those bad actors, and then seeing how everybody just started to congeal and come together as a team, even though they weren't really meant to be a team towards the end of the book. So he doesn't really gloss over humanity's issues with it either. He brings them to light. So instead of it being that a lot of people have disappeared and now everybody's in a euphoric society of let's help each other survive, no, there's good and there's bad in this. So that was a realistic touch that I did appreciate. It's worth its paper, for sure. Now, for the question of is it worth your time, efforts, and energies, that kind of depends on you. If you've never read Dean M. Cole before, I haven't read all these, but I kind of liked the personal development and the personal relationship in between Vaughn and Angela more than I have the relationship in between Jake and Sandra at this point. And it might be because we haven't actually had a chance to get to know them so much, because there was a lot of things that happened. There was a lot of scenes. There was a lot of places, but it wasn't to the point of what, which was also appreciated. It seems like he had a big idea storm and was like, aha! And so there it went. So I think I would recommend reading Singularity first, simply because I enjoyed that so much more. It's kind of like the Peter Klein's books, mentioning the fold. Now for the question of the week. I've already asked if a hot dog was a sandwich, but nobody actually answered that one. But what would be your thoughts or feelings if you found out that...
No more question of the week. Not until we know if a hot dog is a sandwich.
These are some of the most interesting comments that we found this week. There you go. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate them in a big, big way. So if you've made it this far, you, my friends, are the feathers of the bird. You're what keeps us flying. So much, much appreciated. Like, share, subscribe. Now, I'm not sure which one of the videos YouTube is going to say, hey, check this out over here. Or even if, after we pull it in, if we're going to put the videos over there, because it's kind of like an ongoing joke. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't.